Hello and welcome to a Thursday live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside, and we are together here for the next 3 hours live up until 11 a.m. Eastern time on this Thursday. For the first time since the opening week of September, there is not a Thursday night football game as we enter the final week of the NFL regular season in 2023. 2 games on Saturday, 14 more to end out the regular season in week number 18 on Sunday. We'll preview the weekend around the NFL, all the playoff clinching scenarios you need to know. Around the association we go, into college hoops, all of that and more, Donnie, over these next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yep, setting the table here. Usually we are talking about a Thursday night game here in the NFL and maybe even some bowl game action, but we know that's further past there at this point in the season. Can't wait to set the table for this weekend. A lot of information, who's playing, who's sitting for Sunday, so maybe we can make some money and profit off of that as well, Ben.
It feels like bowl opt-outs, DRS, except it's the regular season finale, week number 18 of the National Football League. Around the association we go. Starting in the Western Conference, 2 potential conference contenders out west facing off last night in Phoenix. The Suns, despite not having Kevin Durant, had won 4 straight games entering last night. The Clippers, on a 3-game win streak of their own, make that 4 in a row for LA. The 4-game win streak for Phoenix comes to a close. The Clips out on top in the Valley, 131-122. LA covering as a 4-point favorite. Let's welcome in quickly, Donnie, that Sports Grid radio audience here. The opening hour of a Thursday live right here on the early line, Sirius XM, channel 159. All of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the fold as well. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. The Clippers have now won 4 straight games, covering as a 4-point road favorite in Phoenix, knocking off the Suns, Donnie, 131-122.
Yeah, nice win for the Clippers there overall. The night before, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ride Ja Morant here. I need him to score 27 points because his total was 26.5. He got 26 points. I lost by the hook. Yesterday, Bradley Beal in this basketball game, told you was my best bet, over 20.5. Bradley Beal scores 21 points. So live by the hook, die by the hook, cash in by the hook last night. But that's a good victory for the Clippers, rounding into form for that team maybe we thought they would be with the acquisition of James Harden. They look good.
LA right now 16-10 against the spread as a favorite this year. Paul George scores 33 to lead the Clips. Kawhi Leonard over his points prop of 25 and a hook. He finishes with 30. So that's one LA NBA team. The other, who already won a championship this year, is already suffering an NBA Cup hangover, because since that point, Donnie, when the Lakers won the first ever NBA in-season tournament in Vegas at the beginning of December, they have now lost 9 of their 12 games since claiming the first ever NBA Cup, including last night at home against the Miami Heat. Miami goes into LA, wins 110-96, the Heat winning outright as a 6-point underdog.
Yeah, how about that? You're taking a look now at the same measures that we look at for the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis played 43 minutes. LeBron James played 38 minutes, and they came away with a loss, not even a victory. Now dipping 1 game under 500 on the season. I guess this is what we're looking at for the Los Angeles Lakers the rest of the way, Ben. Are they just one of those teams that's going to sneak in the play-in tournament and hope for the best at that point? It's not a great basketball team, but certainly using a lot of energy while losing.
It's what they did last year, finishing as the 7th seed, emerging out of the play-in tournament, and, of course, reaching the Western Conference Finals. As we keep it rolling around the NBA, Donnie, yesterday a first in association history. The first time that 5 teams on a single day in the history of the NBA have scored 140 points. That included the Indiana Pacers, who put up a $142 last night against the Bucks of Milwaukee. The 5th and final meeting this year in the regular season, including the NBA's in-season tournament, goes the way of Indiana. 142-130 last night in Indianapolis. The Pacers win outright as a 3.5-point underdog.
Yeah, I thought this game would stay under the total. No handicap, just how high that number was, and it didn't matter. 142 points here by the Pacers, who seem now to have the Bucks number a little bit. Tyrese Halliburton in that game, 31 points going on with 12 assists. He was fantastic. And another one of those interesting games here for that starting lineup for the Milwaukee Bucks. You got 26 out of Antetokounmpo. Lillard, I guess you could say, bounced back with 23 points in that game, but still 6 of 18 from the floor. That's not good enough here. I do like the Bucks. They're going to go a long way in the playoffs here, but it's not that super power, Ben, that we probably thought they would be entering into the season acquiring Damian Lillard.
Yeah, still the second best record for Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference at this point. But against Indiana, again, 5 games already, 4 regular season contests, the Eastern Conference semifinal, if you will, in the NBA's in-season tournament. Indiana now has won 4 of games against Milwaukee this year. College basketball last night, only 2 top 25 tilts, including in South Florida. Miami taking on Clemson. The Tigers now a top 25 team in the country. Clemson entered last night ranked 6th in college basketball, but the Hurricanes use a big second half to the tune of 60 points to pull off the slight upset. They were booked as a 1.5-point home underdog.
Yeah, Miami now improves to 11-2 on the season, 2-0 in the ACC, knocking off, as you said, a top 16 Clemson team here. So you're probably going to look for Miami in the next week entering into the polls somewhere in the top 25. We'll see where they go. It's a veteran team, and that roster has been paid a lot of money in NIL to perform. We'll see where they go this season in the ACC.
So both of those teams now 11-2. Miami 11-2. Clemson falls with just their second loss of the year, 11-2 for the Tigers. They are a perfect 4-0 though, still, or they were a perfect 4-0 last night, entering against power conference competition. That their first loss. Now to week 18 in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence back at practice yesterday, but a limited participant. Of course, the Jags on the road on Sunday in Nashville, Donnie, a 5.5-point favorite against the Titans. If Jacksonville wins, it's their second consecutive AFC South divisional crown.
They should be able to do that. But by the way, playing Trevor Lawrence in this game, I don't know if that's the greatest conclusion that you're going to want. It seems like your only pathway to maybe battling in the AFC is to get a healthy Trevor Lawrence. If you have a sprained shoulder on your throwing arm, that's certainly not going to be a good thing here for them. I think they'll be able to eke it out because why? One team needs to win. The other doesn't need to win. Jacksonville should win by proxy here, even with a backup quarterback.
Won last week with C.J. Beathard to stop a 4-game skid. We're not sure about the status of Trevor Lawrence, but other starters around the NFL who have already clinched their spot, well, we know about them. Lamar Jackson is going to rest on Saturday. Patrick Mahomes is going to sit on Sunday, as is Brock Purdy. That's just a couple. Joe Flacco not playing. Matthew Stafford not playing. The list goes on and on in week number 18.
To the victors go the spoils here. Even if you don't have a bye week and only one team actually gets a bye week, take your bye week now. It's fantastic. You head up in the playoffs healthy. Congratulations to those teams who can afford themselves a bye here in week 18.
Brock Purdy not playing on Sunday, but was named a Pro Bowler yesterday. The Pro Bowl selections coming out. Purdy leading one of 9 Niners to be named a Pro Bowl selection in the NFC. Now back to the NBA around the association from a Wednesday evening. Up next.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl. The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5.
and against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they win outright. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Around the association we go, from a Wednesday night in the NBA live right here on a Thursday morning on the early line. Two Western Conference contenders facing off in the Valley, but two teams that really had drastically different months of December entering a new year. As it stood last night, the Clippers entered 2024 on a 2-game win streak, won their first game of a new year, and were looking to make it 4 in a row against the Phoenix Suns. The Suns had won their first game of 2024 as well, and their final 3 in 2023, but that was after a 3 in 8 month of December. Well, the 4-game win streak for Phoenix comes to a close last night. The Clippers extend that win streak to 4 games in a row now with a 131-122 victory over Phoenix last night in the Valley. LA covering Donnie as a 4-point road favorite.
Good win there for the Clippers. And the reason I say that, look, anytime you're going to go on the road and knock off what you think is going to be a contender in your own conference is always a solid win. But sometimes you got to take a look at how those wins actually came to fruition. 131-22, so a solid performance on the road by the Clippers. But take a look at the starting lineup. And isn't this what we envisioned when we were going to get a trade for James Harden? 33 out of Paul George, 30 out of Kawhi Leonard. 22 points out of James Harden. Westbrook on the bench with about 18 minutes, so you don't need him all that much here. That was a great performance overall because this is what we expected once James Harden got acclimated to the Los Angeles Clippers, got himself back into shape. This is what you think. You're going to have a big 3 out there, which means every single piece of that big 3 is going to eat, which includes James Harden. Last year, one of the best assist mans, if not the best assist man in the NBA, chipping in with 11 assists in that game along with his 22 points here. That's a nice victory here. And we had all those woes like, Clippers never going to get it together. This is an embarrassment. Are they going to blow this up by the trade deadline because it doesn't work? That's not the case now. One of the better teams in the NBA and showing up on a night-to-night basis.
Again, in December, Phoenix was 3-8 before they won their last 3 games of the month and then won their first game in 2024. That 4-game win streak now coming to a close. No Kevin Durant last night. Devin Booker scoring in the mid-30s. Bradley Beal over his points prop by the hook, finishing with 21. But it was a pair of 30-point performances from LA's side. Paul George leading the way for the Clippers with 33 points. Kawhi Leonard over his points prop of 25.5, finishing with 30. Kawhi Leonard now over that number of 25 in a hook in 8 of the last 9 for LA, who was 11-2 in the month of December. They won their first game of 2024. Now make that their second game of 2024. The Clippers putting things together 16-10 against the spread when booked as a favorite. As we go back to the other Los Angeles team, that would be the Lakers. At home last night in downtown LA, hosting the Miami Heat as a 6-point home favorite. However, Donnie, the story for the Late Show, since winning the first ever NBA Cup, it's been a road of struggles. 9 of their last 12 games, LA has ended up on the losing end. Miami wins outright in Los Angeles, 110-96 as a 6-point road underdog.
Yeah, and you normally look at this box score and say to yourself, like, all right, the Heat, very good basketball team. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero. Oh, yeah, by the way, Jimmy Butler didn't even play in that basketball game, and it was still an easy victory for the Miami Heat. And you talk about coming down that back stretch. You actually had a pretty good quarter here for the Los Angeles Lakers in the third defensively, holding the Heat to only 19 points. But how about the fourth quarter here when you're supposed to dig your heels in? They give up 38 points to a Jimmy Butlerless Miami Heat squad here. And by the way, Jaime Jaquez, game high, plus 24 in that starting lineup as a plus-minus. He's been really good for them overall, but that's a tough loss for the Lakers at home. That's when you're supposed to win. Your superstars better on that court. The Miami Heat a little bit limping into that game, and they still were able to easily handle the Los Angeles Lakers, who, again, dropped themselves a game under 500.
The Lakers now 10-13 against the number when booked as the favored side. Miami 8-7 ATS as an underdog. 6 of those 8 covers, now an outright victory. In Sacktown last night up in Northern California, 2 up-and-coming teams, the Kings in the Western Conference, the Orlando Magic out east. Sacramento booked as a 4.5-point home favorite. The game needs not 1, but 2 overtimes for the Kings to eventually hold on. 135. Paolo Banchero drops 43 points in double overtime. Malik Monk, the leading scorer for Sacramento off the bench, finishing with 37. But Donnie, if your guy is Tyrese Halliburton to go over points, rebounds, and assists, which he did last night with 31 and 12, my guy is Domantas Sabonis. 22 points, 23 rebounds, 12 dimes last night, a triple-double to lead Sacramento to a 3-point home win.
And he actually added in there 2 steals and a block on top of that, a pretty impressive stat line across the board. And if you're going to tell me before the game the Sacramento Kings are going to win when your superstar point guard, De'Aaron Fox, shoots 6 of 22 from the floor and still come away with the victory, that's great. But also, don't take anything away from the Orlando Magic. This is one of those teams that's trying to learn how to win. 4 games still over 500, a road record competitive at 7-11, and taking the Sacramento Kings into double overtime on the road. What do you want to see out of the Orlando Magic? Sure, you want to win basketball games, but isn't it important that Paolo Banchero, your franchise guy, is performing like a franchise player, which he did last night with 43 points here? It's a shame they lost the game, but there are no moral victories. That's still a pretty solid performance out of the Magic on the road.
The Magic have been a really good underdog, 14-8 now against the spread, 9 outright victories. Sacramento as a favorite, not great covering numbers, 11-14 ATS. The Magic did make 25 threes last night in Sacramento. The Kings do prevail, though, in double overtime at home. Minnesota, the NBA's best team out in the Western Conference, booked as a 5.5-point home favorite last night in the Twin Cities against the New Orleans Pelicans. Did not cover a number, did not win outright. The Pels go on the road, win by 11, 117-106. The victory for New Orleans over Minnesota. The Pelicans pulling off the road upset in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I didn't expect this one yesterday because I thought it would have been a major rest advantage here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And also talking about Zion Williamson, he's probably not going to play on a back-to-back. He did and was sensational in that basketball game. And also, sometimes when you talk about those back-to-backs, you just don't have your legs in the fourth quarter. And the Pelicans didn't. They lost the fourth quarter 35-25, but it didn't matter. They were up so many points through 3 quarters that they just coasted in for a victory. That's a nice win for the Pelicans here, something I didn't see from last night's action. I thought the Timberwolves would have been the right play here.
The T-Wolves right now, still the best record in the Western Conference, 24-9, a full game up on both OKC and Denver. But as a favorite, 11-11-2 against the spread. As it stands for New Orleans on the other side, the Pelicans as an underdog now 10-4-1 against the number. They have won outright 9 times in those 10 covers. And Donnie, if you pay attention to New Orleans at all, look at their alternating overs and unders. In their last 10 games, they have alternated over and under in each and every individual matchup. Entering last night in Minneapolis, their most recent game was an under. Then last night with a 222.5, finishing with 223, the game goes over. An old rivalry in the Eastern Conference that is not so much anymore. Last night inside Madison Square Garden, the Knicks and the Bulls. Second leg of a back-to-back on the East Coast for Chicago, and New York takes advantage. 116-100 over the Bulls. New York covering as a 9-point home favorite. And two guys that you mentioned yesterday, Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, put up big-time scoring performances against Chicago.
Yeah, you're right about that. I thought the game would stay under because I just don't think the Bulls have a great offense, and it does stay under because the Bulls only got to 100 points. And also, Julius Randle, one of those things, Ben, we take a look at the NBA. When guys are on a heater, it's very rare that they say, okay, the next game, let me get everybody else involved. They want to get theirs, and Julius Randle certainly did that. That's a good win for the Knicks last night, 16 points. That's what you're supposed to do, blow out a team on a back-to-back that's not playing great basketball.
31 points, 13 assists for Jalen Brunson, who is having an all-star caliber year after being snubbed just a season ago. So the New York Knicks win by 16, 116-100. The Knicks this year as a favorite, 11-6 against the number. Chicago now 12-11-2 against the spread. They still won 10 of their last 17 games. We'll look at the NBA with our coach, James Young, up next.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this cotton ball.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they went out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game.
It's almost time.
Until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This might sound crazy to say, but with most teams around the NBA already having played 33 or 34 games, we're over 40% of the way through in this 2023-24 NBA regular season. So we take a futures focus here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. It's Ben, it's Donnie, and more importantly, it's the man in the middle, our coach to lead the direction, JY, James Young, joining us on this Thursday on TEL. JY, as always, a belated Happy New Year to you. Thank you for joining us on the early line.
Having me, guys, and yeah, now we have turned to January, which means that basketball's in full swing, not only the NBA, but conference play in college basketball. March is fastly approaching.
That it certainly is. So as we look at the future in the NBA, JY, we look at some of the best teams around the association at this point and what the future holds, not only in the regular season, but beyond. Right now, JY, there is about 7 teams around the NBA with a 50-plus updated win total for where things stand at this current point. The Celtics, with the NBA's best record and the NBA title favorites, lead the way. 60.5, the number on Boston. Denver Nuggets, 55 in a hook. For Milwaukee, the second best record currently in the Eastern Conference at 54.5. The Timberwolves, 54.5. Same with Philadelphia. OKC, 53 in a hook is their number. In the Clippers, who turned things on into December and now early into 2024, 50 and a hook. JY, of those 7 teams, that group of 7, are any of those teams going to finish under 50 wins this season?
I don't think so. I mean, if you really look at it, guys, let's just kind of look at it from strength of schedule on the other way. Like a team like Minnesota right now, they have the second easiest schedule left in the NBA the rest of the way. They get to play, ready for this? The Grizzlies twice, which, we don't know what job they're up and down, but they get Portland 4 times, 2 times the Pistons, 2 times the Spurs, 2 times the Wizards. That's an easy schedule as they come, although they do have to play, I do believe, the Clippers 4 times. So that is an interesting one to look at. Also, OKC, they're loaded up too. 3 with San Antonio. They have 2, I do believe, with the Wizards. They have 3 with the Portland Trail Blazers. So you start looking at schedules, and if you want to start thinking of teams that are going to fade or not fade, it could be based off the schedule that they have left to play the rest of the season. I think the interesting one is the Clippers. They have the 10th hardest schedule the rest of the way. So I think that's a team that is just barely there at a 50.5. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So pretty much all these teams should be able to get to their 50-win mark. And I do think an interesting team to look at for going over the wins is Boston with the 5th easiest schedule the rest of the way. They have to play the Bucks 3 times. I think that's going to be the hard part. But guys, Milwaukee is starting to be a team that's starting to concern me because of their fact of their lack of defensive efficiency on the perimeter. This is where the Drew Holiday and, to a lesser extent, Grayson Allen trades hurt you. They get run over, bulldozed by good point guards that can score. So a guy like a Maxey, a Halliburton, a Jalen Brunson, those guys are going to give them all sorts of fits.
Coach, let's take a look at that Western Conference standings here, particularly with the number 1 seed. As we know in the NFL, teams scrap and claw to get that top seed, to get that bye, and have home field advantage throughout the playoffs before you get to the Super Bowl. In the NBA, it's a little bit different here. Most teams, veteran teams, go, hey, it's great to have the number 1 seed, but we'd rather have everybody healthy and rested by the time the playoffs come, and just put us in that top 5, top 6, and we'll be okay. If we look at the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder, currently standing at 1 and 2, are those the 2 two teams that you believe of that will be the number one seed? Or will teams like the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Kings, and the Pelicans try to get that spot? Or is it one of those things, Coach, where you take a look at they're veteran-laden teams? The Nuggets don't need the number one overall seed. They've been there, done that. The Clippers, more than happy to rest their guys down the stretch, even if it means not getting a top seed in the Western Conference. Who, for you, at the end of the season, is going to be that top seed here in the Western Conference?
Even though they've lost the last two games, lost to New York, and then obviously lost last night, you guys just talked about it. I'm going with Minnesota. I think their strength of schedule lines it up to be the second easiest with who they have left to play. And I think the other thing you have to look at Minnesota is this. Donnie, you make a really good point. Teams that are experienced want to get in, right? And just get there. Teams that are young want the wins. It means more to them. So for a team like Minnesota that hasn't been there, right, I think that is the team, and I think it was at plus 190 to lead the Western Conference in wins, because just looking at the strength of schedule lined up, I think they have an easier schedule than a team like, let's say, Denver, who's got to play Minnesota 3 times. So that's going to be the swing right there. The Minnesota matchup versus Denver 3 more times could be the difference of who gets 1, who gets 2. And if that's the case, who does it mean more to? To me, it means more to a team like Minnesota. So at plus 190, because of the easier schedule and the 3 times they still get to play Denver, I like Minnesota to get that 1 seed. I think it means more to them than it would to Denver.
Despite the Timberwolves and the Thunder both losing last night, OKC on the second leg of a back-to-back after a huge victory over Boston earlier this week, the 2 top winning percentages in the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. JY, one thing that stands out to me is where these two teams stand right now with regular season success, what the rest of the regular season could hold, but how the odds makers evaluate these two teams in terms of the Western Conference Championship odds. What do you believe is the ceiling for both Minnesota and Oklahoma City this season?
I think Oklahoma City is a fantastic story. Do I think they're going to do it in the playoffs? I have my reservations. I think, to me, Minnesota stands out to me because they are the best defensive team in the NBA. And I think that is, and Coach Fitch has not been given a lot of credit for what he has done. He has transformed this team, Ben. First things first, he's got Rudy Gobert playing the best basketball he's played in years, right? As a rim protector, shot blocker, right? Obviously, you look at Cat, who was going to be moved before the season, they thought. Now he's settled in with that 4-5 spot as a stretch 4. But then you got a guy like a McDaniels, a guy that's really elevated the game offensively, but a lockdown defender defensively, and then you got the backcourt of Conley and Edwards. So I think, to me, they're more primed to make a longer run because, 1, I think they get the 1 seed. 2, the fact they defend really, really well, and they have an anchor in the center at the center position at Rudy Gobert that can stifle things. Because think about it, Ben, when you get into the playoffs, what do you typically see? You see half-court, walk-it-up basketball. Teams that are better in the half-court defensively tend to do better in the playoffs because the game does slow down.
This is why I need JY on in the morning to help me out with some NBA action here, particularly at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's take a look at the Coach of the Year here at that quarter pole position. And, Coach, the top 2 guys on the list, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this guy's name right, Daniel and Finch. If you ask me right now, I have no idea who either one of those guys even coaches for in the NBA. Rick Carlisle, obviously I know. Jamal Mosley, I don't know who he coaches for. I do know Nick Nurse here. Help us out. Help me. Or should I say, help you, help me, help you here, Coach. What's going on here? Who's going to win this? And who do they coach for?
Where does Rick Carlisle coach, Donnie?
I'm going to go Indiana, right? Is that correct?
Woohoo!
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
That's because he already coached there.
That's
because he already coached there. Donnie didn't know he returned for a second stint. Donnie thinks he's been there since 2007.
Yep.
Listen, it's really going to be an interesting award. Mark Daigneault's done an outstanding job at Oklahoma City. Think about this, guys. 2 years ago, they had 20 wins. Like, they could almost triple their win total in 2 years. I think the play of Chet has been outstanding. To me, it's got to be Chris Finch. I think what he's done over there in Minnesota with that defensive presence, if they get the 1 seed, I think that lends itself to something. But because you do think going into the season, guys, I do think even though they both have elevated their games this season, I actually think that OKC, if I'm not mistaken, may have had the higher win total than Minnesota, or they were right even. Yeah. So I think even I go to Chris Finch of Minnesota.
Yeah, I would agree with where that stands at this moment. JY, so now we look quickly at the Western Conference odds, where we compare them to the standings. The Denver Nuggets, the reigning Western Conference champs, the reigning NBA champions, booked as the favorite at plus 185. The Suns have struggled, though, in December and now into early January. Second best number. The Clippers now up to that third best price. And then those two teams in Minnesota and OKC that have the two best win percentages in the Western Conference. How do you evaluate those odds here in the final minute of this segment?
Well, Ben, it's obvious that the defending champions, and they're going to probably be a top 2 or 3 seed, should be the favorite because you have to knock them off. To me, I'm intrigued by the Clippers. I was down on the Harden trade because I thought 4 ISO guys couldn't play together. They figured it out. Why did they figure it out? The Claw is playing his best basketball in years. He's engaged. He shows up.
Yep.
He plays back-to-backs. He plays defense. He's shooting at a high clip. So to me, I know this sounds crazy. I think if you're going to ask me right now, value who I'm taking based on the odds, I'm taking the Clippers. They also have Tyronn Lue, who has experience of getting deep in the playoffs and who I think is a top 3 coach in the NBA.
The Clippers won 11-2 in the month of December. They've won their first 2 games here in January, 13 then of their last 15. JY, as always, we appreciate the time. Have a wonderful Thursday. Maybe hit that fadeaway so Donnie can see all about it and talk to him about Mark Dagnall when you get a chance. More on the early lineup.
Julius Randle fadeaway, baby.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this cotton ball.
The Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show in Chief. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm right in the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning where they cover, they went out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats if you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5. This was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We are just 2 days out from the start of the end. It's week number 18 in the National Football League that kicks off with a doubleheader on Saturday. 2 games on Saturday, 14 on Sunday, the end of the regular season in the National Football League. So time to play our favorite game here on a Thursday on the early line before week 18 gets underway. It is time now for NFL Buy or Sell. Donnie, we are going to show you Lamar Jackson's MVP case, some of his season stats for 2023, and more than likely, those are going to be his season stats, despite Baltimore playing in that first game of Saturday to kick off week number 18, as Lamar Jackson is expected to get the rest and not start in this game for Baltimore. The Ravens have the best record in the NFL. They're 13-3. Baltimore has already clinched the AFC's number 1 overall seed. The total yards this year, of course, is a component for Lamar, 4,499. 3,678 of those through the air, 821, which leads all quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of rush yards on the ground, with 29 total touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, as we shared yesterday, is a minus 20,000 favorite to win the NFL MVP award, virtually already locking up his second MVP award in the last 5 NFL campaigns. But the buy or sell to you, Donnie, is not should Lamar Jackson win the NFL MVP. Buy or sell, the NFL MVP award is broken.
I don't think I'm going to sell that. I don't think the award is broken here, because when you get to the end of the season, who actually is the MVP? Do we have an argument that Lamar Jackson actually isn't the MVP after what we saw? Now, you might have gotten a better argument, Ben, 2 weeks ago if you saw Brock Purdy have a bad football game, Lamar Jackson have a terrible football game against the Miami Dolphins and they lost. Tua Tagovailoa goes down with an injury. Tyreek Hill gets injured, doesn't hit his 2,000 that he needs to be a wide receiver. Christian McCaffrey goes down with an injury and said, you know what? This is a really wide open field. But I think, again, the NFL is going to get it right where Lamar Jackson is the true MVP. And also, it is a quarterback award. We get that. But also, what's the most important position in all of sports? It's the quarterback position in the NFL. Yeah. So that's why you're going to get the bump, and that's why they are truly the MVPs. And also, when we're taking a look at who's making the most money in professional football, it's the quarterbacks that continue to set records because of how important they are to their team here. But I do think the NFL, it would be nice if other guys were able to win it at times, but you have to do super historic things. McCaffrey was on his way to doing that, didn't work out that way. Tyreek Hill was on his way to doing that, didn't work out that way. So always, it's going to go back to a quarterback who has a really good football team, and the best football team in the NFL right now, it is the Baltimore Ravens, and their quarterback really sealed that deal, Ben, on Sunday, taking on the Miami Dolphins and blowing them off the field, and he had his best game of the season. So I don't think it's broken.
And Lamar Jackson has stepped up for Baltimore in their biggest spots of this season. Fair or unfair, we know the reality in football. The quarterback position, not an offensive tackle, not a middle linebacker, not a cornerback. The quarterback position is tied to wins and losses. When you're winning, it's all a good thing. When you're losing, maybe fair or unfairly, all of the blame gets centered on how the quarterback is playing. That's the reality of where we stand. So when you break down the word or the acronym MVP, most valuable player, the quarterback is always going to present the most value for any football team. And so it will be tied in the individual performance to the overall team success, and Baltimore is the NFL's best team. Lamar Jackson, more than likely, is going to be the 11th consecutive winner of the MVP award in the NFL. to play the quarterback position. 16 of the last 17 MVPs after Lamar wins his second in the previous 5 years are going to play the quarterback position. A big year for Lamar, by the way, because if you remember all of the offseason leading up to the opening night of the 2024 NFL draft, or 2023 NFL draft, in late April, it was a conversation around Lamar's value and what he meant from a monetary standpoint to Baltimore and where he stood in the quarterback market in the NFL. Well, he's about to win his second MVP award in the last 5 years. 3,678 passing yards, 14th most in the NFL. 24 touchdowns to 7 INTs. But Lamar Jackson is also a top 20 rusher overall in the NFL with 821 yards on the ground, the most by a quarterback. Now, back in 2019, I will just say this. He has more passing yards this year by about 600, but he did throw for the league's most touchdowns in his 2019 MVP winning year with 36. He also had a QBR of 83.0. That was the best in the National Football League this year, fourth best at 65.3, and he ran for 1,206 yards, the most ever by a quarterback in a single season in NFL history. So that was a historic 2019 MVP season. This year, he has been very, very good, and I'm going to sell the notion that the MVP award is broken. He's just the quarterback of the NFL's best team, as well as the stats that back it up. All right, next up, we go to the Buffalo Bills and their dwindling price to win the AFC. Buffalo has not clinched a playoff spot, by the way, but with a win on Sunday Night Football in South Florida against the Dolphins, Buffalo will claim the AFC East Division for a fourth consecutive year. So, Donnie, just a few weeks ago, Buffalo was 10-1 to win the AFC, then plus 650. Then last week, it was 5-1. Now, entering week number 18, third best price for the Bills at plus 430 to win the AFC Championship. Buy or sell, the Bills are a true Super Bowl contender.
It's good that you asked me this question. It's January 4th. This is before the actual end of the regular season. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm selling the Buffalo Bills right now as a Super Bowl contender. He said, Donnie, you've been so high on the Buffalo Bills the past couple weeks. What gives here? Well, you know what actually gives here, Ben? Saturday. I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Why? Because the Ravens don't need that game. The Steelers absolutely need it. That will give the Steelers 10 wins here. And if you take a look at this weekend, there's going to be a game in the AFC South. The winner of that football game is going to go to the playoffs here, which means the path is straightforward for the Buffalo Bills. You just have to win one football game and you get in the playoffs. But it's against the Miami Dolphins, and it's in Miami. And I say to myself right now, sitting here, I do think the Buffalo Bills actually win that football game. But let's backtrack a little bit from what we've seen of the Buffalo Bills. Weren't we unbelievably impressed with that victory over the Dallas Cowboys? Sure we were. That was a big spot for them. Were we impressed that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Absolutely. But also, Ben, sandwiched in those games, pulling out a late win against a dead Chargers team here. That game was on the road. Playing the New England Patriots, dead in the water, barely working through that game and pulling out a victory against the Patriots by under a touchdown. Now we're led to believe that the Miami Dolphins in their biggest game of the season are going to roll over. Now, I get it. You do have some injuries that you have to worry about here for the Miami Dolphins, but Ben, it's still a road game here. The Buffalo Bills aren't that football team that's entering in here with 14 wins, looking to put one of the best regular seasons in football together and put a final piece to that puzzle for a Super Bowl run. But again, you asked me this question on a Thursday. Today, I sell it. If the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football win that game and head into the playoffs, absolutely I'm buying in as a contender in the AFC. But how can I sit here today saying, like, if they lose, they don't even make the playoffs and say, yes, they're a Super Bowl contender? I'm going to sell that right now. But obviously, that notion will change if they do win that football game Sunday night. That's where I stand, Ben.
Two big games on Saturday. The Steelers now a 4-point favorite in Baltimore because the Ravens are resting virtually everybody, starting with Lamar Jackson. Pittsburgh wins that game with a Buffalo loss. The Steelers are into the postseason. Second game on Saturday, Houston and Indianapolis in Indy. The winner of that game earns an AFC playoff berth and would still be in the running for the AFC South divisional crown if Jacksonville were to go down. If Pittsburgh wins, and the winner of Houston and Indianapolis, if there is not a tie, will earn a playoff berth as well. Buffalo could lose, but they would need a Jacksonville loss as well. They will know their fate entering Sunday Night Football in the true regular season finale in Miami against the Dolphins. Right now, the Bills booked as a 3-point road favorite. Now we turn our attention over to the other conference and the Dallas Cowboys, an 11-5 team, nearly favored by 2 touchdowns on the road in Landover on Sunday. With a victory over the Commanders, Dallas, again, booked as a 2-touchdown favorite, is going to claim the NFC East. Donnie, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, the buy or sell question to you is Dallas is the best team in the NFC East. Do you buy or do you sell?
I'm buying that right now. And again, this just depends on when that question actually gets answered. A couple weeks ago, certainly we wouldn't be saying the Dallas Cowboys were the best team overall. And quite frankly, losing a football game to the Miami Dolphins, and then you probably should have lost to the Detroit Lions if that call was not overturned here. And then we'd have a different conversation at this point. But here we are today where the Philadelphia Eagles lost the game against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, here's the end all be all, right? Man, you can't be the best team in the NFC if you lose to the Cardinals. Yep, that's the rewind button right there. Oh, Dallas actually lost to the Arizona Cardinals as well this season. So how about that? Yeah. So they both did here. They're neck and neck right now. But the question is, the Philadelphia Eagles probably don't care about beating the New York Giants. The Commanders going up against the Dallas Cowboys, the Commanders aren't playing for anything. Dallas should be able to win that. But if we're just looking at quality of football, where even though we don't think the Dallas Cowboys probably can win the Super Bowl, who do you actually trust right now more? A Philadelphia Eagles team that can't get any stops on defense, or the Dallas Cowboys that have actually been playing decent football, win or lose, over the past couple weeks while they're through their gauntlet part of the schedule? So right now, the Dallas Cowboys for me are the best team in the NFC. Why? Because they're going to win the NFC East here. So that's my answer.
I would have to buy it at the moment, but still, when it comes to the postseason, I probably give the edge to Philadelphia, despite that defense being, oh boy, atrocious at this moment. So much worse than the team that won the NFC a season ago on the defensive end of the football. Donnie, it's an interesting Week 18 slate, of course, because you have teams that are playing for a divisional championship to earn a bid to the postseason or that playoff seed line. And then you have others that are already focused on the year to come, or even individuals that are looking for a different scenario. Now, the Denver Broncos end out their regular season in Las Vegas on Sunday. The Raiders are a 2.5-point favorite against Denver. Of course, Russell Wilson is not going to be the starting quarterback for the Broncos. He's now on the bench. Jarrett Stidham will make his second consecutive start. It was a disastrous 2-year run in Denver. There's no other way to say it for Russell Wilson. The chef didn't really have any flames left. 11-19 in the overall record. Was really good at throwing touchdowns this year, but the yardage not even truly there under Sean Payton. Buy or sell, Russell Wilson will be a starting quarterback in the NFL next season.
Oh, absolutely here. Now, you take a look at his contract there with Denver right now. It is still ridiculous, but here's what's going to take place. Do you think anybody in their right mind in the NFL is going to actually make a trade for Russell Wilson? Do you remember how botched it was for the Las Vegas Raiders that they just let Derek Carr go? Probably could have got at least a third or a second-round pick back, but ended up cutting him here, which allowed him to go to a new team that could pick whatever financials they wanted because the Vegas Raiders would still be on the hook for whatever's left over. Nobody's even going to give a fifth-round pick for him, talking about Russell Wilson in Denver. Why? Because you would take on that salary, which would be ridiculous. Let him get cut from Denver. He is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL somewhere because why, Ben? Have you seen some of the quarterbacks that are currently playing in the NFL right now? Somebody's going to take him on as one of those, okay, let's get a veteran guy in here. We'll surround him with good talent. He's good enough to win football games. We can make a playoff push. I might be able to save my job as a coach and also get a beneficial contract from Russell Wilson here and not pay him $250 million to be your starting quarterback. I'm buying it. He's going to be a quarterback, a starter next year in the NFL.
It's a buy for sure. He will be a week 1 starter for one of the 32 NFL teams, just probably not Denver or Seattle. $85 million worth of a dead cap hit, by the way, for the Broncos when they decide to cut and release Russell Wilson. Now some college basketball to end out this opening hour. Up next.
It looked like it was going in. It hit the upright and bounced out and did not go in. There's more scoring in an MLS soccer game than there is this Cotton Bowl
the Chargers didn't know what the hell to do with Staley for years. They're a clown show and cheap. Denver's got this issue, Gabe. Like, the Chiefs must just be sitting there going, wow, what a bunch of brain trust we work with in this division.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back! I'm laying the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they win out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who are you taking? Well, especially if you know that maybe Kuzma could get moved. Tyus Jones is a free agent. To me, I'm taking Detroit with Cade, with Ivy, with Doran, and then obviously Ashore Thompson, and also because of Monty Williams, I know he's a better coach than that.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
To end out this opening hour, we quickly enter the zone to recap two top 25 games in college basketball from Wednesday night, firmly into conference play all around the nation. We start in Providence, Rhode Island, where at Amica Mutual Pavilion, formerly known as the Dunk, the Friars were perfect at home this year, winning each and every home game by double digits. But Hall ball, they've made some statements to start off Big East play. Seton Hall, a huge upset last night, winning outright as a 6.5-point underdog in Providence, 61-57. Seton Hall, Donnie, in their two Big East wins this year, has knocked off UConn and then Providence on the road as well.
Yeah, Shaheen Holloway bringing some of that Jersey City grime with them there up to the what we used to call the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence. 61-57. This is an old school Big East slugfest that they were able to get away with the victory here. And that shows a lot of mettle for that team. 9-5 on the season, but 2-1 in Big East play. That's a great performance by them. Even though the game was ugly, you'll take a win against a top 25 program on their home court any day of the week. Good times there for Seton Hall.
One of the most exciting players in the Big East, one of the leaders for Kim English's Providence club, Bryce Hopkins, did go down yesterday in a good bit of pain at that game for the Friars against the Pirates. Not good news for Providence, losing outright as a 6.5-point home favorite. Now we go over to the ACC. Clemson basketball is ranked 16th in the country, entered last night 11-1 in a perfect 4-0 against power conference competition. The Tigers were actually booked as a slight 1.5-point favorite on the road in Coral Gables against Miami. But pay attention to the Hurricanes, a team that reached the Final Four a year ago and has reached 2 consecutive Elite Eights because Miami uses 60 points in the second half to pick up a 95-82 victory over the Tigers. Miami now 11-2. Clemson now also 11-2. A total of 155.5 goes way over last night in South Florida. We're back with some NFL news and notes when hour number 2 of the early line starts in less than a minute.